So, hello everyone. I'm Rowena Barrett. I'm the Executive Director of QUT Entrepreneurship. And the part of the university that I run was established just over 12 months ago to provide the opportunities for all QUT members, students and staff to engage in entrepreneurial action. And they could do this whether it's building their own venture, solving a social problem, or making change in another person's organisation as an entrepreneur. But what I wanted to do today is to talk to our entrepreneurial alumni, and with us I have Greg Dower. So welcome, Greg.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me today.
That's all right. So just so everyone knows, Greg is a podiatrist, but he's more than that. He's also the co-founder of My FootDr, which many of you will know, and he's the Chief Business Development Officer of My FootDr. So Greg studied a Bachelor of Applied Science. He graduated from QUT with distinction in 1992. And because he's done such an amazing job over the years since then, in 2016, he was named as the QUT Faculty of Health Alumni of the Year. And that award recognises his contribution to the industry and also to the larger community. So today we're going to talk about Greg's entrepreneurial venturing and what he's learned along that journey over time and what this could mean for others. So Greg, welcome back to QUT.
Thank you very much. I feel like at home. It doesn't seem like back in 1927 or when I came through here. But actually, I learned a few things about myself that I didn't know just then.
Yeah.
You've done your homework.
There you go.
Thank you.
So tell me, Greg, when you came to QUT, what was it like and what did you study?
Well, I came through in the early 90s, so 1991, 92, and it was a wonderful place of learning even back then. I really enjoyed the campus. We were just talking about that before because we had the river, we had the beautiful gardens right next door here, and I had some really wonderful lecturers that became mentors of mine. So my time here was really good. I really enjoyed myself.
Mm-hmm. And then you studied applied science, podiatry.
Yes.
What was the expectation when you graduated from your degree? What would podiatrists do?
I think that our scope has changed a little bit over the last 30 years or so. But I think most people in Queensland worked in the private sector. There wasn't a lot of public jobs. There was a lot of hospital jobs in other states. But it was a lot of manual podiatry, a lot of nail trimming, a lot of callus and a lot of diabetic patients, but we were doing a lot of sports medicine back then as well. We had some great mentors, as I mentioned before, Dr. Philip Perlman, and he came across from Chicago, and where the scope was different in America, so he helped push the boundaries a little bit for us here. So I came along at a really good time.
Yeah. And was there an expectation that you'd go out into business?
No, I don't think so. I never thought of myself as owning my own business at that stage. I think, like everything, you're a student for a few years, and you don't have you got a lot of lint in your pocket, right? So I think you just want to get a job, and I was very lucky. I got the job that I wanted, and I enjoyed myself. And I think so. Coming out, the main thing was applying for those jobs in that sort of last semester and getting a job.
Yeah. Okay. And so where did you go?
So I worked in the leafy suburb of Bulimba back then. It was a sleepy little village. There was like one service station. There was a couple of fish and chip shops and lots of homes. And of course, Oxford Street has really changed now. So it was a village-like atmosphere.
Yeah. Okay. And so My FootDr, where did that come from?
So I started working for myself about 18 months or so after I bought the clinic where I was working, and it started off just a couple of patients a week, really, and then got it to a stage, and my employer back then said that she wanted to go and expand her family, so I bought in, and I did a lot of stuff myself back then with very little in terms of employees and resources. I didn't have the resources and I guess I fell into entrepreneurship by accident. We had a few employees, and my second employee basically was Darren Stewart, who is now I became CEO of the My FootDr group, and is my long-term business partner and great friend. And there was a lot of hard work behind the scenes back then. My wife, Sally, was in the business, and she was, we were having, a family. She'd bring the baby to work, and, like you really had to roll your sleeves up and get the work done. When Darren decided that he wanted to buy into the clinic, and I decided I needed some help because it was getting bigger, and we had 4 or 5 podiatrists then, and it was quite a large business, and a little bit too much for one family to handle, Sally and I. Greg Dower Podiatry wasn't going to be a good name. And I think it just came to us, what do people call podiatrists? And they don't know what podiatrist was. It was a podiatrist that, worked with children, pediatrician, so it was my foot doctor. So we just said, well, call it foot doctor, my foot doctor. And then it just came to us. Okay. So that's how the name came. Yeah. And we've obviously expanded a lot since then.
Yeah. So the opportunity to create My FootDr came out of the clinic that you were in.
Yes.
It brought in Darren with his other skills and abilities.
Yes.
What do you think the key resources were that you had at that point in time?
We both, in terms of our own resources, we both had a fierce determination to succeed. Okay, so we were both passionate about our industry. We both were. We weren't the most risk adverse people that I knew. Let's put it that way. Okay, so we didn't mind if we took risks. We worked hard, and we seized the opportunities that we had. We started. It took a few more years before we started to realise that we needed a lot more in terms of resources, like getting a proper management team there, and like putting accountants and lawyers on staff, and people that could do contracts and HR. And then, as I said, we fell into this sort of entrepreneurship by accident.
So we use a definition here at QUT that we borrowed from Howard Stevenson at Harvard Business School about entrepreneurship being the pursuit of opportunity beyond the resources currently controlled.
Yes, that's a good point. That's a very good point. Yeah, so our resources were limited, like you say. We didn't have the resources we needed. We didn't have, it took us a while to actually to catch up on that. And you're right. It was beyond. We were sort of trying to do the champagne practice with the beer budget. We were cash strapped. We had used our homes for funding. We didn't really have a lot of corporate debt when we started, but we soon developed an interest in buying clinics and starting clinics in greenfields, and that's how we grew. And of course that was all done by mum and dad lending with bricks and mortar, our house. And you get to a stage where actually you get too big for that, and you need to look for other things.
Mm-hmm. So what was the opportunity that was driving you in all of this?
It's a very good question, thank you. We kind of knew where we wanted to go. Very early in the piece, I had a very good businesswoman. It was Therese Rain, and she said to me, because we were doing technology back then, so we were innovative. We brought CAD/CAM, computer aided design, computer aided manufacture, to podiatry. We brought the fungal laser to treat nail fungus. It doesn't sound very sexy, but it affects a lot of people, and it's been great for us. We brought rehabilitation and ankle foot orthotics and 3D printing industry. So we had all of that, but what we didn't have was actually a proper structure, and so that's where we really needed to look forward.
Mm-hmm. And it was patient first. Was that really what drives you in all of this?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that I've tried to instill, certainly, I'd been out probably 8 or 9 years before Darren came on, but he was just he was very much like myself. We're very similar in many ways, but we're different. I think that's actually been good. The two different personality types has worked quite well. But we have always had that ferocious determination to get to the bottom of the problem, because we're problem solving. Most people in their careers, they solve problem for people, whether you're a consultant, a lawyer, whatever you do, a house painter, podiatrist. We want people to be mobile and up on their feet and be comfortable, and that was always first and foremost. So we then, what do we need? And that's one of the reasons we expanded, because we thought we were doing it, better. Okay, we thought that our way of doing podiatry was, and we're getting great results. And I still get patients that come back now after 30 years, and their 3 generations of patients have come through. So you must be doing something right. But we put the patient first always, and then we sort of we'd move into another area where maybe a doctor was referring us patients, and we'd set up a little satellite clinic there, and before we knew it became a full-time clinic, so we needed some more staff, and that was a green field. But others, we bought quite a few clinics in the early days, from clinics that were run down, and we wanted to put our innovation and our technology and our brand behind it, and our note-taking and the way we treat patients, and then it just kept building from there.
And so how did the industry look at that time? Because it sounds like you were behaving differently to others in the industry.
We were, and still are to some extent actually. It was very cottage industry. It was very much a sole practitioner focus. There was no, people thought they had businesses, but they didn't. It wasn't a business. You had a job. You created a job for yourself. So you were a sole practitioner. It took me 60 years or so before I even had another podiatrist. It took me a while. Working myself, I'd be working till 10 o'clock at night, home visits on the way home, and you realise. I realised late that I needed some staff and to build the business. So yeah.
Yeah. So that's really quite interesting. That piece about expanding and thinking about resources and how you bring them together. Because one of the resources you mentioned there was doctors were referring patients to you.
Yes.
So building that network.
Yes.
And being a trusted part of the
Absolutely.
health network.
I think, people can tell, doctors and physios and medical specialists, anyone that refers family, friends, people know they can seek out authenticity. They can seek out if you ring a patient, a week or two after doing something and find out if they're okay, and it might be, 9 o'clock on the way home, and they can see that you're actually really focused on getting a good outcome for the patient. So the network is a huge resource, and again, you don't realise that, you just fall into that, but you knock on doors, and one of my best mates is a GP from Bulimba, who's the godfather of my kids now, bass player in my band, and he's been a lifelong friend, and I met him through work. But then it doesn't seem like work, or doesn't seem cheesy, or like you're forcing that if you're just genuine and if you have similar interests. Yeah. And similar interests is looking after patients, right? So. Absolutely. And you have a bit of fun on the side, playing a bit of rockabilly music. Well,
We'll come back to that.
What have I done for you? I ought to.
So I'm just thinking, you had your wife's support in doing this.
Very much so.
Did you come from a business family?
No, I didn't really. My father was a fitter and turner. He was a blue-collar worker, but he worked very, very hard. He gave us the things. He gave us a private education. My mother as well. I remember her working 2 jobs when we were going through, and you don't notice at the time the sacrifices that they made. But I came from a very hard-working family. I came from a very loving family. My 2 sisters and I and my mother are still. We see each other very frequently. I've lost my dad now, but we were a very close-knit family. So I think whilst I didn't get the business acumen from my family, I got a lot of traits, a lot of personality traits, and a lot of things that I can take forward in my life.
Yeah, and that's an important part about being in business, having that larger personal network that's there to support you, because it can be an incredibly lonely path.
It can be. It really can. You're right. But I think when you realise that you don't have to do everything yourself. That's when you talk about resources, we didn't really have them at the start. We had we had a pretty good clinical skill set. We had great results. We had patients that were following us and coming back routinely, and referring their friends, and a good network of doctors, but we didn't really have those other resources. I think when you realise that you don't have to know, you don't have to be the smartest guy in the room, you don't have to know all of those things, you can find people that can do that, and you stick to what you do well, and make sure that you enjoy it. You've got to be passionate. The thing that I want to come through to anyone that's watching is to be genuine, authentic, and be passionate, to actually really, really care deeply and have a deep knowledge of your industry and turn up to work. It doesn't seem like work if you do that. It just seems like I feel blessed in my position.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so tell me about now. So My FootDr is part of a larger listed company, the Healthier Group.
Yes.
Tell me about
done your
that.
homework, yeah. Okay.
Why is that
Okay. Well,
the future?
I mentioned before that we got to a stage, in Darren and I and our families, my wife and I and Darren and his family, and we basically got to a stage where we couldn't borrow any more money, and we still liked our brand. We loved our brand. We got to 16 or 20 clinics if you count the little satellites, and we're going great. We got this family, and I mean, we must have done something right because we've got staff that were there from the start. We've got them, 15, 20-year veterans that with us, the podiatrists and our receptionists and some people that have been there for the whole journey. Like I'm talking about one that I went through university with here, Sharon Sanders. She is a lovely lady who has been with us the whole time. So I think that we sort of built it up slowly over time.
And so the listed being part of the group?
So we got to the stage, thank you for reminding me where we were at there. I need a coffee. We got to the stage where we built as big as we could with our staff, and so we needed basically some funding. So we were looking actually at maybe going down the private equity pathway at some stage. We had a lot of people approaching us. We didn't realise actually the value of the business in the business world. Okay, we just thought we've got a great podiatry business. Again, it was more than just creating a job for ourselves, because at that stage we could definitely stand back from the business. Darren and I didn't have to be working there. We wanted to be there. But we had some properties. We had about 4 or 5 properties where our clinics are, where we are, and we wanted to get more clinics, and so we needed to fund it. And anyway, we met up with a guy called Glenn Richards, Dr. Glenn Richards, who is absolute savant with rollouts and businesses. He founded, of course, Green Cross Vets, and they merged with Pet Barn and became the biggest public company for pets in the country by far. And he came on. We met him through Entrepreneur of the Year awards. Not dropping all these names for any reason, but he was a judge in that with Professor Ian Fraser and some other fantastic people. And he said to us, look, I'll have a chat to you afterwards, because he was judging us, and we met and had coffee, and he could see the way forward. So the way forward was he came in, he bought a third of our business, and we started then to get serious. We already had a reasonably good management team, but it wasn't robust and it wasn't set for rollouts. And he helped us list in 2018. Now, September 11, good day for listing a business. And we listed with a group of physiotherapists, a big group, all sports physio. We also listed with a DPS surgical, so they're a surgical supplies company. So we vertically integrated things, not just to make more money, but we had control over bringing different technology into the country, and we often distributed the stuff that we brought in. And then there was a hand therapy group, Extend Hand Therapy, and of course Orthotics, which is our manufacturing arm. Yeah. And then the head entity was Healthier with all of these sub-entities underneath it.
Okay. And so how is being part of a listed organisation which has quite a different degree of regulation and scrutiny?
Absolutely.
How does that affect your job and your passion for the business?
Fortunately, I'm still allowed some freedom to have my entrepreneurial flair. Okay, because it's a publicly listed company now, I can't be given carte blanche like I was. It was, So we have a board. We have an idea. We go to the board. We'll talk about it sometimes robustly, and we'll always come back to an agreement that's best for the company. But it is it's a different environment that you have to learn. It's not your company. You don't own it anymore. I'm an employee of the group, but I still have a fantastic job where I see patients 2 days a week, and they're very complex patients now that really makes my brain. I have to keep learning more and more stuff. I have to keep learning and advancing my career even after 29 years. So I see that, but then I have another job in developing the businesses and finding acquisition targets for the group, having chat to people, and we've turned down way more clinics than we've purchased, and we're up to nearly 90 clinics now in podiatry alone, and then another 30 something in physio, and so that was good to learn to get to do financial and operational due diligence on these companies and try and help the industry itself by telling people that, look, this is not what we're looking for. If you could do this and this and this and this, and then change things a little bit and maybe come back. And subsequently, we have bought some of those clinics. But I think that the industry has to win. The industry has to be strong. Yeah.
And you have international locations as well.
We do. Yeah, we do have. We do have a couple. We have one in Singapore, which is not part of this listed Healthier group here. That's owned by myself and Darren and our local partner over there, an Australian guy who is our sort of chief in Asia. But we also have just opened up in New York with Orthotics, another 3D print hub that's out there in the marketplace now. It's been announced through the ASX. So that's going very well in the early days, and it's great to have that international presence.
Absolutely, but again, another dimension to where you were in 1992.
Like another universe. Yeah. Another universe, but it's been a fun ride, and I'm looking forward to the next steps. I've never really been one to sit back and look in the rear vision mirror. I've only, and I think that's one of the traits of, I became an entrepreneur by accident, but now I look at it, and if you read about it and find the definition, I'm that person. Yeah. I'm that sort of mad scientist that likes to take a risk and sees an opportunity and sees, that the greater good and have a purpose and all of those things, and I think, that's me.
Yeah, but it's not a risk. There's often a thing about entrepreneurship. Oh yeah, they're very risky, but it's not a risk at no. Oh my goodness, I'm going to just step off this cliff.
Oh, absolutely. No, you would never do that. It's one thing I've learned is actually saying no to the deals, as I was saying before, and so it might seem risky for someone else who does, like we actually grew a lot in this last financial problem with the GFC, that we actually grew a lot in those times, and we actually put the pedal down and we acquired and we went out and we did talks and because I knew my industry at the time, I know the industry, I knew what it could do and how robust it could be in those times, and health is a strong industry, but of course there are definite risks, and now we can bring that to the board and we can show them the opportunity, and they can do all their financial due diligence, and we've got more accountants than podiatrists in our support office. Again, having smart people around you, having really good resources around you.
And do you think that in healthcare that it's larger rather than smaller is the future? Or more comprehensive, holistic? Yeah,
I think that's the way the world's going. If you look at, there are some, like some of the really big companies, Apple and Amazon and big companies like that. Not that I'm comparing ourselves in any way. We're still quite small in terms of what there are 4,500 podiatrists in Australia, and we might have 150 on staff. So we still a relatively small number. We're by far the biggest in the country. But there's a lot more growth to do. But I do see that, the synergies of amalgamating. I do see, and I understand a lot about that now, and how that we can add value to others as well by the multiplication effect of being able to do and have all of the resources that you have, and they can step away from being a sole practitioner. They can have, a marketing team, an accounting team, an IT team, a HR team, and have, regular, really good professional development courses. We run mesh sessions every Friday, and where our podiatrists can, over their lunch break, and physios and hand therapists. We've got a fracture clinic as well, and they can, watch this, and it's recorded. They can watch it live and interact, or they can come back and pick it up later.
So the idea for our students now, graduating, many of them will look to go off into perhaps the public health system.
Yes.
but many of them will go off into business as well.
Yes.
Into private practice.
Yep.
The idea of just hanging out a shingle on the main street in whatever neighbourhood, what do you think that they would need to know? Do you think that's the best way of moving forward?
I think it's much more difficult now than it was when I was coming through. I think because the internet, for starters, you have to understand the algorithms, how internet works. You can't just give a company money. You have to actually do your own homework. So no, I don't think you can actually do that much anymore. You've got to, and it depends what you're looking for as well, though, because not everyone wants to own a big business, and for some people they actually want to keep it boutique. They want to keep it a family business where they have a steady source of income. They might buy a little bit of property. They might buy the building they're working out of, and it's not for everyone. But it's difficult now just to go out and say, I've got a degree. Here we go, and people go, well, what do you do? Who are you?
So do many other people.
Yeah, that's right. So we see amalgamation. There's a lot of benefits to that, and we realise that that's not for everybody, but it's working well for us.
Yeah. So you work with QUT students
I
now.
do. I'm blessed to be back here,
Yeah. And what do you see do you see a difference between them and you? And do you see some things that you would really like them to learn, or that you help them to learn?
That's a great question. I mean, I think the main difference is the so-called millennials. But really, when you understand millennials, they're no different to us. And I'm sure that my parents would have thought the same about my generation and their parents. So they're different. I think the main thing is the connectivity now. Okay, that the world is a much smaller place because there used to be 7 degrees of separation. It's probably 1 or 2 now. Like everyone knows someone who knows. So I think that the internet is quite a big thing. They don't have to even come to lectures. They can ours was very didactic. Ours was you come in, you write a whole heap of notes, and you go away and.
And they would write them on the blackboard.
Oh,
The blackboard.
It was almost the old tablet, like not an Acer tablet or a HP tablet, but the old tablet and chalk. But yeah, no, I think the main thing. Sorry to answer your question.
I interrupted you.
I waffle on too long. To answer your question, I think that what the information that I would like to impart, and I try to impart upon the students when I lecture and when I see them, and when they come to our clinics, we get a lot of the QT students coming to our various clinics around Australia, but certainly in South East Queensland, is to really put the patient first. And I think all of them have that. They wouldn't have gone into healthcare. They wouldn't have gone into podiatry or, we went through with the optometrists and the radiographers, and they wouldn't have gone into that if they didn't like helping people and try and solve problems. So they have that innate sense. I think it's just to embrace the technology, to have the patient sort of centric approach, and tell people in terms of entrepreneurship, tell people when you're having a good result, write a good letter to the doctors. Write a really good, concise, yet comprehensive 1 or 2 page letter that explains everything that you've done. And I think that's been the best form of advertising for me. Yeah. When you say about going out and networking, I never really went and knocked on too many doors. It was basically just getting a really good result, putting the patient first. And then, we always took videos and we could explain to the patients with the technology, with video gait analysis, what was their problem, and we'd send a letter to the doctor, and I think that would be the main thing, to get a really good outcome and then share that information with the team. The team, physio, the optometrist, the physiotherapist, the doctor, the surgeon, they're all on the same team, and I think you need to find out who else is looking after you, and would you mind if I sent them a letter as well?
And really, we think about that in terms of entrepreneurship. It's that focus on the customer.
Yep.
You can't be an entrepreneur if you don't have a customer.
No, that's true.
Otherwise, you're sort of just playing about. You need to focus on them, and you need to deliver value to them.
Absolutely.
And you demonstrated that.
Oh, you've got to be genuine. You've got to seek that opportunity. That you've mentioned that a couple of times. That's so important, because if you're not Johnny on the spot when an opportunity comes, and people might think it's, oh, geez, he was lucky or they were lucky, but you make your own luck. My dad taught me that. I mean, our big Al he always said, Greg, you make your own luck, and you really do. You do your research, you do your work, and you look at something and bring it in, and you're the. So you get out and you always have that focus on getting the good result for the patient, and that's your product. I mean, the product is is in our case is getting them mobile, getting them back on their feet, and then of course the entrepreneur side of it is that you're doing it for as a business to be able to make the money, to be able to put back into the business, to grow and to mature and to train, and to have your staff working in a good environment, and so that you can keep them for 15, 20 plus years like we have been lucky enough to do. Yeah.
So we go back to this, entrepreneurship can be a lonely path, and often in the entrepreneurial community, we don't talk enough about mental health and that fact that, as the entrepreneur, you are driving this. You are driving something into the future that is not clear. I mean, if it was clear, someone else would have been there.
Yeah.
You have many outside interests.
I do.
From work.
I do.
This is where I won't have done my research because cricket means absolutely nothing to me. But I understand you're a cricket tragic.
I am.
And you are. You have a band, the Blue Cats.
I do.
You're the lead singer there.
I'm a rockabilly guitarist and lead singer for the mighty Blue Cats.
Yeah. So tell me about that. What does that do? How does that enhance, your world? I'm passionate about everything that I do. Okay, so I think you can give your all to the clinic, to the patient, and I can quite happily work a 10 or 15, 20 hour day, and then but I need downtime, and the downtime is my family. I love my kids and my wife, and they don't say much anymore. When they were younger, they'd come out and see me play, and so we'd have that outlet. As I said, I've got Billy, who's a GP and great friend of mine, godfather of my kids, and he comes out, he slaps a mean doghouse bass, and so that's good. We don't play as often as we'd like to because it's sort of 4 hours on stage and an hour or two either side of that, so it becomes an 8 hour day on top of an 8 hour day. So we used to go down to the clubs down the Gold Coast on a Friday night after work, and we'd race home, pack it up, get down there, and you quickly have a feed, and then you go on at 8 o'clock and finish at 12 o'clock, and you pack down by 2 o'clock, and it'd be 4 o'clock before you got home. Yeah. It's a long day. And cricket, well, I'm lucky enough to work with some of the world's best cricketers. I work with the Australian team and all the visiting teams that come out. They're lucky enough to meet them. And so this is where you can have something outside of work and work mingling together. I truly enjoy cricket and all sports. I'm like a lot of guys and girls that grow up in Australia, if it's a round ball or an oblong ball, then I'll chase it. But I think it's important to enjoy life and to try and get 110% out of it. Yeah, absolutely. So Greg, we'll finish up, but what would be a piece of advice that you would give to students? If they're contemplating an entrepreneurial career, what would you say to them?
Okay, well, do your homework. As I said, you need to be well prepared so that when that opportunity does come, you can just grab it, like you're in the right place at the right time. But there's a lot of planning work. So do your homework. I think you need to be passionate. I would say to find something that you want to be able to do for the next 20 or 30 years. You want to really get out there and take an opportunity when it arrives. I think that you need to do your homework so that you can get yourself in a position where you can take advantage of that. Don't be afraid to take a risk, but calculated risk. Be a little bit risk averse. Be a little bit pro risk. Sorry. Yeah. Ask for help.
Yes.
I think that's ask for resources if you need help. You said before lonely. It wasn't that lonely for me because I did have the support of my family and Darren. So it was kind of like two people doing that one entrepreneur's job. And if I was tired, he'd take over, and if he was tired, I'd take over. Yeah. So I think teamwork is really good. Be careful who you go into partnership with, but I think that the two heads are better than one. So I think that's it. Be passionate, get a really good outcome, take the opportunities, learn earlier than I did that you need to get those resources, have them in place, and then you can work on the business, not in the business. So you don't have to see patients, all day, every day. You can stand back and you can actually direct things and make sure the clinic's going well.
Yeah. Okay. And I think that's really quite important, and is a lot of what we do at QUT as well. It's about ensuring that in this special time that people have while they're at university and studying, that they also have those opportunities to learn how to see opportunities, how to assess opportunities, how to gather the resources, how to ask for help,
Very important.
and how to work through some of the advice that they're given, because not all advice needs to be taken as well. But we try to put them in an environment where we can give them the support and resources they need, and to give them the ability to ask questions along the way as well. You know, for us, we don't want to be sending students out into the world and say, "Oh, I'm going to be an entrepreneur," and they don't quite know how to do it, or they don't want to do it. That's not key. But we want to give them the ability to say, "That's really interesting. I can see a problem. I can see what the pathway forward might look like." Yeah.
Very true. I think, and one thing I forgot to mention was, find a mentor. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You find someone that's been doing it, that is passionate, that has similar interests, and ask them lots of questions. And you find that entrepreneurs actually are, they're very happy to give that information freely, very freely, because they're passionate about something, they like to talk about it.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. This has been a fabulous conversation with Greg Dower, the co-founder of My FootDr. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you very much for having me, Rowena. Thank you.